and supplement for your heart and mind, and wherever you receive podcasts from. If you would subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, leave a rating and a brief written review. Today I want to talk about productivity in tough times. I've talked a little bit about leadership in some of these difficult times, but I'm going to do something that I don't know that I've ever done on Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. I'm going to start with two Bible verses that I think can help orient us in this time. They're found in the 34th Psalm, verses 17 and 18. The righteous cry out to the Lord, and he hears them. He delivers them from all of their trouble. Verse 18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. I have about 8 things that I think will help us as we try to stay a minimum level of productivity in these very, very interesting times. And so let's begin with them. Let's start with number 1. Number 1 is prioritize self-care. Now is not a time just to push through and to go through. Some of you are very sad. Some of you are really struggling, and I for one moment do not mean and do not want to minimize that. If you need help, you need to reach out and receive the help. For many folks, these are very, very frightening times. But let's talk about self-care. That would start off with spiritual. Be a great time, whatever your walk spiritually is, to get into the Word, to pray, to really just check out where you are spiritually. If you have a little extra time, it'd be a great time to kickstart your devotional life and making sure that the spiritual part of yourself is being taken care of. And then there's some physical self-care. Many of you are quarantined into your house or your yard. Fortunately, where I live, I'm allowed to walk my 2 little dogs, and so whether they like it or not, we're all getting exercise. But what I've discovered over these years as I have really begun doing physical exercise in earnest these last couple of years is that as much as it does for me physically, it really does a lot for me mentally and emotionally. Especially when last year or so we went through some kind of difficult things in our family. And I found that when I did the exercise, it really relieves the tension and the stress. So find some way, even in the close quarters, to take care of yourself physically. I've already discussed it, but let me highlight it again as we're talking about prioritizing self-care during these times is make sure you take care of your emotional and mental state. Some of you are in close quarters with small children, and I know you have to feel like the walls are closing in. But make sure you take some time emotionally and mentally and focus on getting your mind in a good spot. Now, the other thing that sometimes it sounds selfish to people to talk about self-care, but taking care of yourself makes you stronger for not only yourself, but for everyone in your life. So self-care is vitally important. Do not ignore it. The second thing that I would say on how to stay productive in these difficult times is we're going to have to adjust our expectations. I have a Brennan Bouchard folder that I go through. It's kind of a morning routine, some goals and all of that. And I discovered a couple of days into what we're doing, it was sort of a waste of the paper that it was written on. So I've set that journal, that very important productivity piece on my shelf. I'll re-engage with it when life gets slightly back to normal. So I've had to adjust my expectations. I'm not able to do the things that I was able to do a month ago. I've had to adjust them. We're having to go different kinds of directions. I didn't say throw away your expectations, throw away your goals. You're just going to have to adjust them down to the area in which we're living right now. And it's okay. Some of your adjustment may be make it through the day, and that will be okay. But I have kind of still have some things I'm working on. Now, this next one, number 3 of what we need to do to be productive in tough times is going to sound counterintuitive for the situation we're in. And I say to you, don't isolate yourself. Now you're saying, how in the world can you do that? We are basically in the definition of isolation. But for all the times in human history that something like this could have happened, this is a great day, because here I am via video as if I'm with you there in your home. We can call people, we can text people. We Zoomed with some folks last night on Zoom. We got together. I'll have several meetings this week in which we do that. And so don't just isolate yourself. Reach out to someone. I've even noticed as I've been walking the neighborhoods, a 3 or 4 block radius that I walk my dogs, that I've, at safe distancing, gotten into conversations with people, because I feel like everyone is experiencing this isolation and everyone is trying to reach out. So don't just isolate yourself. That really does help us to get ourselves in always a not so good place. So don't isolate yourself. If you need help, reach out. And that leads me to the 4th of the 8 things I'm going to talk about how to be productive in times like that, is help others. The other day I was walking with my 2 little dogs, and a couple of ladies in their house were struggling with moving something. So I said to them, if you'll come out here and stand and hold my dogs, I'll move that into your garage for you. I didn't know them, they didn't know me, but this kind of a time. And we all felt better about just a little bit of help. If you know that there's someone in your family or friends who gets discouraged easily and are very sad, keep touching base with them. Reach out to them. Let you be a shoulder they can cry on. Let you be someone who can offer help. It's probably not very often that you've heard Dr. Ron quote John Lennon, but John Lennon has a great lyric, a great quote that says, don't count your age by your friends and not years. Count your life by smiles and not by tears. So let's find some friends. Let's reach out to folks. Let's be especially sensitive to those who are hurting. Let's help others. Sometimes we can get so focused on ourselves and trying to get through something that we forget there are a lot of hurting people in our sphere of influence, and we just need to reach out to them and really do what we can to be a help to them. Number 5 is write things down. You know, a short pencil beats a long memory all the time, but especially in days like this where emotionally, mentally, we're a little frazzled and things are coming to us and at us, and we think, well, I'll remember that. Write things down. If someone gives you a piece of information, don't at any time not to rely on our own mind to help us to remember things would be right now. Make sure, if you're going to stay productive in these very tough times, then make sure you write things down. All right, let's get ready to take this to the barn. Number 6, remember, bad times do end, and think of all of the things in the past you have overcome. Bad times come, bad times go, and there'll be more, and we'll get through this, and you've overcome before. Here's what will happen to a lot of us. Even though I'm not as busy doing things I did a month ago, for this week alone, I have 5 or 6 meetings that I'll be a part of. There are some ways in which our lives feel a little bit busier maybe than they were doing different things. But no matter how bad it is right now where you live in this world, bad times and tough times will end. Think back, just reflect for a few moments today of hard times in your life that the Lord has brought you through, and you have made it through okay. You're going to make it. You're going to make it through again. The one thing that I want you to remember as we try to stay productive during these tough times is, unlike other events in my life, like last year when we had 2 or 3 kind of difficult situations to deal with, my wife and I, we were the only ones going through those unique things. The advantage we have in what we're going through right now is everyone is going through it with us. Everyone has to go through kind of the same things that we're going through. Now, that's not to give us some false sense, well, I'm miserable and everyone else is miserable, so I'll be happy about that. It's just to remember, everyone is going through it. And one of the reasons we need to reach out is not only to help, but a lot of people will give us ideas of how they're staying positive, how they're making it through, how we are doing this, and God is going to bring us through. The eighth one may be, in fact, the most important one that I want you to think about. When we get through this, we are going to have learned some invaluable lessons. So in the same little piece of paper that I told you, if somebody needs you to remember something, write it down. Here's another thing I want to do, and I'm going to do that. And after this is all over, I want us to share together. What are you learning through this? What are you learning? Here's what I'm learning. I'm learning we really do need each other, and that together we are stronger than we are by ourselves. I am learning that things that perhaps I had taken for granted are really vital. The fact that the first time I can remember in my lifetime, I was not in a church sanctuary for Easter Sunday morning, and yet the gospel message was proclaimed. But I'll never take for granted meeting with other believers. I'm a person who has a tendency to go out to eat a lot, and I kind of take it for granted. And now when I go out to eat with friends, it's going to be a lot more exciting and a lot more important. Just being able to move around and go and do the things you want to do. There are a lot of things I'm learning, but I want to tell you what's at the top of the list of things I've learned. God is faithful, and He meets us exactly where we are, and He brings us through. In the translation that I preach out of, I love Philippians 4:13, which says, I can do everything through Him who gives me strength. In the way it's translated in the NIV, it's 10 words. And so here's how I kind of illustrate it. You know, right now we have our fists clenched. We're just trying to fight through this. And at times we're angry and our fists are clenched. And when you're feeling that during this time, here's what I want you to do. I want you to clench your fists. And then I want you to quote Philippians 4:13. And as you do, let go of whatever it is you're fighting about, because it has 10 words like you have 10 digits on your hands. I can do everything through Him who gives me strength. And I go from fighting and clenching to praising Him. Right now, we need to give the pandemic to Him. We need to give all of our what ifs and what will happen and how will we get through that and how am I going to make it. And remember, I can do everything through Him who gives me strength. Tough times come and go, but God is forever. Friends, let's stay productive. Let's stay trusting God. Let's keep sweet. Let's prioritize. Make sure you take care of yourselves. Adjust your expectations. Don't just totally isolate yourselves away from people. Please, please, please help someone today. Write down things so you don't forget them. Remember, bad times will come to an end. You've overcome before. Everyone's going through this. And make sure you write down what you're learning. I'm going to be excited to hear all the lessons that God has taught us during this time. And remember, you can do everything through Him who gives you strength. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, productivity, goal setting, and a whole lot more. And wherever you receive podcasts, if you'll subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom and leave a brief rating and a review, I will greatly appreciate it. And remember, my friends, you are doing better than you think you are. You really are. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.